3, 2, 1. I'm live. All right. Hello, everybody. Haven't done one of these on the Comic Tropes channel in a while, but welcome. I'm Chris. I'm the host of Comic Tropes, and I have the day off. I'm actually ahead of the game this week for once. I've got my next Comic Tropes video edited. It's up early for patrons, and I thought I'd do a live stream on this channel. I'm going to give folks a minute to figure out that I'm live, because I don't think anybody necessarily knows, but I'm going to start promoting it to my socials. I'm going to be drawing Jason Voorhees. It's Friday the 13th. We only get one in all of 2022, so I don't know. I just thought that it would be kind of fun to do something like that today. Let me just grab the link. Look at this. Got some folks popping in. Hello to Wise Hat. Hello, Tac Tac Toys with Film. Hello, from the UK. Right on. Hello, Rodrigo. Yeah, I haven't done one of these in a while, folks, but I just thought that it could be kind of fun to do an impromptu live stream on this channel. Hello, Connor. Lovely to see everybody here. Let me just go to my own channel so that I can grab the link. I'm going to post this to my social media before I get drawing. But all I'm going to be doing today, it's Friday the 13th, baby. Let's draw something. He's live. Hello, Matt Edwards. Hello, Hardcore Dinosaur. Oak City Gamers. Thomas McManus. That Choir Guy. Marco Santana. No Stop. Jose. Capricorn. Ignacio. Oh, I can't keep up. I can't keep up. This is great. Glad that there's a bunch of people here. Just so you folks know, I actually do a weekly live stream on my second channel. That's called Pros and Cons. So every Monday, I do a live stream where I recap the comics that I've read this week. I riff on the comic book related news of the week, and I draw something. So that's something I do every Monday, 5 p.m. Pacific on my second channel. I'll explain why in a minute. But I love Friday the 13th. The movie series, I think it's not good at all. It really isn't, but I like it. I'm just sharing this link to some of my social channels real quick, and then I'll see what's going on here. You look like a lot like the Pros and Cons guy. Nice to see you, Andrew Jefferson. Lovely to see so many new names, new faces, and stuff like that. Yeah, just doing an impromptu thing. Like I say, normally on a Friday, I'm furiously editing away, trying to get the latest Comic Tropes episode ready. And I got it done early this time, so I thought I'd just do a live stream because I don't have much else going on today. I'd planned on going with my wife to see her parents, but she got slammed with work. I had my day cleared out. Boom, I'm going to draw for y'all. Happy to take questions and stuff. And I'll be with you in 2 seconds. I don't really have much in terms of comic book related news to share since I do that on my Monday show, but let's see what we can do for this. Is this the Jason Voorhees from your comic video you reviewed? No. Nope, this is just drawn for fun. Steve says, I love your content since it focuses more on behind the scenes of comic creation. Yeah, I guess that's pretty accurate. Oh, there's my wife. My wife. That never gets old, right? No, it's okay, Chrissy. We'll go see your parents some other time. Soon. So I'm not doing anything fancy. I'm going to try to kind of keep this sketchy and loose to maybe have some cool energy to it all, and we'll just see how it all goes. But I think the best way to draw Jason is to make some cracks in the mask to show some kind of horrid visage underneath. Yeah, that's interesting. Rodrigo asks, which is my favorite of the Friday the 13th movies? I think if you put an axe to my head, I would choose part 4. Part 4, which was called, I think, The End or The Final Friday. It was called something. It was, I forget the subtitle. Obviously, they kept going since the series was successful. But yeah, I think part 4, it has Corey Feldman, it has Crispin Glover, it has really great effects by Tom Savini. Sort of like a little bit of humor, but like some really good kills too. It just like hits the mix. I would say that like 2, 3, 4, 6 are like really high on my list for those movies. But let's just see what I can draw today. More Borat comic tropes content, right? Maybe have a worm coming out of the mouth. No, Thomas, I'm not going to be referring to Part 9, which is a fine movie for what it is, but not a great Friday the 13th movie, as it retcons a lot of the history. But, you know, whatever. None of them quite tie together very well chronologically, so I'll forgive it. Are you making a comic? Not right this minute, no. I am in the process of writing one. I like horror. Surprise, since I'm drawing a horror character. I'm working on revising a script for, I guess what you'd call it, like a werewolf comic, because I just don't feel that there are many good werewolf stories out there, and I think I've got a good angle on one, but I'm looking to hire a really good artist to draw it. I think I just want to write this one, so hopefully that's something that I can do soon. Thanks to your channel, my best friend forever is starting to read comics. Hey, that's really exciting to hear. I'm really glad to hear that. I love spreading word of the medium just because this is my favorite creative storytelling medium. This is my favorite art form. So I'm always excited to hear about new folks getting into it. Somewhat related, anybody happen to go to Free Comic Book Day? Pick up anything new that like excites them? Always interested to hear stories like that. Hey Ted, where's the corkscrew? Yeah, that's a good moment. My favorite moment is not necessarily horrific, depending on how you interpret it, but Crispin Glover just does the most bonkers dance ever in part 4. You can just YouTube that, like, you know, Friday the 13th dance or Crispin Glover dance, and I think you will definitely get a kick out of that bonkers dance. I really don't quite know what he was going for. Doesn't matter. It entertains. Werewolf movies peaked with American Werewolf in London. You know, Michael, I think that American Werewolf in London looks very good. I don't think it's necessarily an excellent movie, and I'll argue my case here, because I know a lot of people point to that as like one of the best, and it's not a bad movie. I'm not saying that it's a bad movie, but the protagonist in it is incredibly passive. Like, a bunch of stuff just sort of happens to him throughout the movie. He doesn't have a lot of agency. He doesn't try to do too much. People just sort of tell him things, and he goes along with it, and then the movie just sort of ends. I don't need somebody to be successful with what they're trying to do, but I want them to sort of have a goal. I want to know who they are a little better, and I feel like I never really get to know the main character in American Werewolf in London too well. So, you didn't ask for it, but I'm the guy with the microphone, so there's my review. Ginger Snaps is underrated. That's pretty cool. I think the first Howling movie is decent. You know, and there's stuff like Wolfman. If we go back to classic Universal, I would call that a werewolf movie, basically. My favorite werewolf movie is Dog Soldiers. It's from the UK. I think that one's really, really cool. But I've got an idea that I don't feel like has really been done before, so we'll see. That's something I'm planning on doing. Have you seen the music video with Crispin Glover singing Ben from the Willard movie? I have, but not in a long time, so I don't really remember it well, but I know I did see it at one point. Interesting question. Yeah. Well, thanks everybody for joining me. Like, that kind of makes it fun. You don't have to necessarily be into Friday the 13th to participate. I'm just going to be throwing down a bunch of ink and seeing where this all takes me. Hopefully it's somewhere interesting, but I'm glad to have you along for the ride. There is no spoon. There you go. Howling is probably my favorite werewolf movie. All right. Got a bunch of people. Hello, Mandela Butterfly. Hello, A-Man. Nice to see some familiar faces from my Monday live streams. Now, let me explain. I don't do live streams regularly on the Comic Tropes channel anymore for a very specific reason. And that is, no matter how well these do, they won't do as well as one of my edited videos. Therefore, when I do these, the YouTube algorithm just looks at like, well, his latest video didn't get anywhere near as much traction. And if I do this kind of like regularly, getting like low-rated videos, unfortunately, YouTube sort of penalizes you for that. They stop recommending your video to new people, and that's the only way your channel can grow, because people will always sort of move on. You know, I think I've got great retention, but people do move on, so you need to catch new viewers. And to grow, of course, you need to catch new viewers. So if I, unfortunately, do too many live streams on this channel, I found that it really, like, slowed the growth tremendously. So that's why I started a dedicated channel for live streams, and I'll also be using that to do sort of like travel vlog type ideas. But anyway, just explaining where I'm coming from on that. At the same time, this is like, you know, my main channel, and I just felt like I wanted to have an opportunity to connect with whoever's out there. Connor, I would say more wolf. More wolf. Well, no. Excuse me. That's not what I had in my head. I will say more man. I want it to be big. Real big. Dynamite Thor versus Jason. Who wins? Dynamite Thor. He can solve any problem as long as you give him a stick of dynamite. And he always has a stick of dynamite. Always. Yeah. So I've sort of got like my little guy as a bit of reference here, you know, like nothing too fancy, but this is loosely the Jason I'm going to use as inspiration today. Just in case I'm like, wait, what does he wear again? It's a pretty simple uniform. Wasn't the Pros and Cons channel named Skunk Ape or something? No, Miro, that's this channel. This channel was actually named Skunk Ape before I decided to ever do a show. I just came up with a name that was sort of unique. I was always amused when I lived in New Orleans that people there call the idea of like a Sasquatch or Yeti, they call it the Skunk Ape in the South. So, so this channel was originally called Skunk Ape, and like the name of the show was Comic Tropes, but fortunately YouTube lets you sort of rename your channel. Hey, Daniel, how are you? I just realized that this live stream was on the main page. Yeah, exactly, right? Surprise, surprise. Just decided to do something a little different today, impromptu, just to hang out with everybody. But I'm glad to see you, Daniel. Daniel is from Sweden, and he makes comic books. I actually lettered a comic book for him. You can find his books on Mark Hoja's website. He's had several published. Oh, wow, we've got a super chat here. Kevin Connor with some Canadian money. It all works. Thank you. We've got some sort of an animated bird throwing coffee at me, basically. Or maybe that's just juice. Or maybe that's blood, actually. I mean, that would be thematically appropriate considering what I'm drawing. Oh, Tac Tac Toys also from the UK. I just watched the Crispin Glover dance. Epic. Right? It's good. That's what he says just before he dances. You know there are really Sasquatch crossing signs posted in some places? I didn't know that, Jojo, but thank you very much for the info. I definitely believe it. I know people are fans of the idea of the Sasquatch. And what's not to like about, you know, a human-like animal that no one can seem to locate. It's a mystery that will never be solved. Lovely. Wow, another super chat, this time from Mexico. So look, I've got Canada, the UK, and Mexico. Keep up the good work, says El Espectador. Thank you all. I I'm feeling the international love. That's really, really exciting. I appreciate it sincerely. Definitely helps. Daniel points out, yes, Loxor is the graphic novel that Chris lettered while I wrote it. Yeah, I should have explained that a little better. Sorry. I'm always all over the place when I do these live streams because I'm not excellent at both sort of drawing and talking. So what I tend to do is sketch something out that I can then ink because it requires a little bit less concentration. Something I can do a little bit better. I'm going to have Jason just absolutely stomping on a guy. Just seems like the kind of vindictive jerk move you can expect out of that guy. He's not nice. If you didn't know, Jason Voorhees is what I would call a jerk. Yeah, I'd go there. Brazil here, you got fans all over, Chris. Well, obrigado. We love you in Latin America. Ah, gracias. International love, isn't that a Pitbull song? If it isn't, it should be. I don't know. I have to admit, I'm not much of a Pitbull expert. Remember that Aquaman movie had like Pitbull covering Africa by Toto? That was a weird cover. Did not expect that. Any chances you're ever going to make episodes on more foreign comics like X3 or Tintin? There is a superb chance. Yeah, Tintin has long been, or really more specifically maybe talking about Hergé, has long been a creator that I want to discuss on the channel. There's just so many ideas that things are constantly getting bumped and everything. I love how defined your anatomy is in the pencil sketch. How do you practice your anatomy? Doing anything specific? Life drawing when I can, and just drawing, looking at anatomy books and stuff. That's all it is. Yeah. Oh, wow. Big super chat from Andrew Jefferson. He says, ever read the comic Maniac of New York? First of all, no, I haven't. He says, it's like Jason takes Manhattan, but he never leaves. So people have to go about their lives while a slow motion disaster happens. Because topical. That doesn't sound bad at all. That sounds honestly pretty darn cool. Following a story of how people get used to dealing with like some sort of monster like that. I mean, it would be like dealing with some sort of natural disaster or something like that. I dig it. I dig it the most. Wow. Thanks for the recommend. Maniac of New York. Undead Jason. Yes, he's been undead for quite some time now. Quite some time. Any thoughts on making a comic tropes on Norm Brayfogle? At some point, for sure. I definitely started reading Batman primarily in the early 90s, and Brayfogle was like the guy at the time. I would say that I was slightly more into Jim Apato's art, but I really did like Brayfogle. I remember reading his stuff Prime through Malibu and liking that. Yeah, he deserved a longer career and more recognition. So I'd love to discuss his work at some point. Trust me, if you mention a creator, there's over a 90% chance that I've considered that. It's from Aftershock Comics. Thanks, Andrew. I'll keep that in mind. Hopefully I can find it. The local comic stores I have don't necessarily specialize in a lot of what I would classify as indie. But I would be interested in reading that. Maybe I can find it online. That would be nice. Always looking for new things to read. You never know what you'll discover. For instance, on Free Comic Book Day, the book that surprised me that I really thought was the best was something called Barbaric from Vault, I believe. Anyway, you're reading Apparo's run on Aquaman? That's awesome. Another good run on Aquaman that doesn't really get discussed much, but was like long and pretty cool, was Ramona Fradon. She's somebody I'd love to discuss sometime. She's like, I think in her 90s now, but she is still alive and she still takes commissions, which to me says that she really loves drawing, you know? Because when you're in your 90s, you don't have to draw. But her work is really nice. Waiting for you to do an ambush bug deep dive. That one we might be waiting on for a little bit. That one we might be waiting. Oh, Mandela Butterfly. Nice to see you. Happy Friday the 13th. Favorite good luck charm? Do I even have such a thing? That's an intriguing question. A favorite good luck charm? You know, here's what comes to mind. When I was in elementary school, you know, like 1st through 5th grade here, every once in a while, they had this thing in the lunchroom where they had little things that you could buy. I don't know how to describe it because it wasn't exactly a book fair. Instead, it was things like, you know, shaped erasers, binders, and like art supplies, basically. And like pencils, like with like fun drawings on the side, things like that, right? Like race cars and stuff. Simple little things that you could buy for like $1 or $2. And they often had the Lucky Rabbit's foot as a keychain. And for some reason I thought, you know, hey, that was soft. It looked cool. Never really knew anyone that had one, but I was like, oh boy, I sure would like one. And one day I happened to have like $1 or something on me and I bought one. And I instantly kind of felt sad and regretted it because as soon as I held it, instead of just looking at it, like owning it, I was like, wait a minute, this means that there's a rabbit out there without its foot. And I know that seems super obvious. Keep in mind, I was probably in something like 2nd grade. Hadn't really thought it all the way through yet. And having it instead made me feel very sad. I was like, well, wait a minute, I don't want to be rubbing the foot of like a dead animal. It really just sort of made me feel sad. But that was a thing that they sold back then. So you asked me like favorite lucky charm. All I can say is probably not a lucky rabbit's foot. Unlucky for the rabbit at least, right? 4-leaf clovers. I definitely remember being about the same age and like, you know, just really pecking through the yard, like trying to find one of the clovers that had 4 leaves instead of 3, and thinking that it would like grant me a wish or something because it was so rare. I was a bit of a dumb kid in some ways, yeah. Gullible or naive. These are words that you could apply to me. Love the channel. Is there a chance in the future you could profile more creators in comics like Al Ewing, Pat Mills, or 2000 AD? Yeah, definitely. I think that that would be really fun to cover a bunch more British stuff. So yeah, definitely something I'd love to do. Trust me, I've considered it. You know, it's everything I can do to get an episode out a week. I really, like, I am stretched to the limit. And just to be clear, I consider this my full-time job, but I do have a part-time job that still requires, like, about 28 to 30 hours a week. So, you know, an episode of this takes me, well, like, all the different work, like, it can take me, like, you know, another 50 hours or something. So I'm stretched fairly thin is all I can say. But I'd love to. I'd love to. All I can say is I plan on doing this for a long time because I've got so many ideas and I can only get them out so fast, you know? Feel free to shout out your suggestions. You know, if people, like a lot of people said the same one, that just lets me know, oh, okay, maybe I need to prioritize that because it sounds like a lot of people are interested in that topic. There's always a chance it's something I haven't heard of, too. So feel free to do that. But there's an excellent chance, just for the record, that I have considered it already. Just want to be clear about that. What's your part-time work? I sell cars. Have I read Hulk Grand Design? I did. And in my Monday episodes, I reviewed that. I thought that it was definitely an interesting creative experiment. Jim Rugg did a lot of interesting things with mimicking certain styles or certain storytelling techniques. So he had a lot of fun with that one, I think. Yeah, I like the cartoonist kayfabe boys. They're very intelligent. Always have nice things to say about them. What do you do with your live stream drawings? Nothing. They just gather up. So, like, here's some of the ones that I've been doing lately. What else? Hold on, I've got some comics in the way. Let me move these out of the way. They just sort of pile up. Because, I don't know, what am I supposed to do? At some point throw them out, I guess? But here you can just sort of see some of the stuff that I've been drawing lately. I like that, except for like how I came up with the werewolf head. But it wasn't really a werewolf, it was a jackal. Radiant Black. This one got away from me. I was trying to do something cool for Death's Head, but I don't think it came out that great. There's Batman beating on someone. Nezuko. Invincible. Gambit and Rogue. Here's another one where I was sort of experimenting more with like color and stuff like that. I was trying to draw Misty Knight, kind of got away from me. These are just experiments though, you know? I mean, I'm trying to learn. Some of them don't come out well. Storm. Well, I forgot about that one, but there's like one with sort of two ways of looking at Moon Knight. There's Wolverine. What else do I have? I've got more than I thought. Bruce Banner, Incredible Hulk. There's a Dark Knight. Take on like Frank Miller's Dark Knight. Some Spider-Men hanging out. Megatron, Transformers. There's Grendel. Here's one where I tried to come up with an idea for like a werewolf. Oh, Johnny Slider says, really enjoy your videos. What's your thought on Grant Morrison's Batman run? Solid. I don't think it's my favorite of his work, but I think it's really interesting. And yeah, he did some good stuff with Damian. There's Kate Bishop. Kind of face got away from me. This one was for Ed Piskor's Red Room. Here was one I was trying like some perspective stuff with a version of Ant-Man. There's I think that was supposed to be Raphael getting his face punched by Shredder. Berserk. What else? I guess that's Omni-Man. This is from a show that I liked, but I can't quite remember what it was called now. Because it got canceled. Oh well. Here's like a lot of these don't get finished because it's just whatever I can do during the live stream time because I'm just trying the techniques. But there's Godzilla in Shibuya Square. Shibuya Crossing, I mean. I guess that one was just like an alley in Japan. Somebody smoking. Got more than I realized. There's one of Hulk, Grey Hulk. There's like an unfinished Captain Marvel's. What else? Oh, hey! Appropriate for today. That was based on the Tom Savini Hellfire Jason that was created for the video game. There's Hot Rod playing the guitar because I had just seen this band called the Cybertronic Spree. I guess that's about it. Yeah, these are all... Yep. So anyway, to answer your question, they just pile up. And at some point, they're too big a pile, and I throw them out. Wayne. Thank you, folks. Yep, that was Wayne. That was a good show. Underrated, in my opinion. So, yeah. Who else out there likes drawing just to sort of draw for the fun of it and hopefully learn some things? Have you ever read Scott Snyder comics Severed? Nope, haven't read that one, I have to admit. Wayne got canceled? Well, it never got renewed, Chrissy, and it's been like well over a year, so I think that it's technically canceled. Like I think it's too late. Like the actors don't stay under contract for this long, so it's effectively canceled. You should sell them for charity. Hey, Meow, not really late now, just sort of messing around. That's not a bad idea. The only reason like I really haven't done something like that is, like I say, I am very pressed for time, and the idea of adding something to go to the post office is very intimidating. I already have a bunch of like merch that I would love to make available, but I don't have the time to mail it out, so I need to find, like I've got these, I've got hundreds and hundreds of these Infotron plushes. I've got Comic Tropes enamel pins, but I don't have the time to go to the post office all the time. I just don't. What's my favorite Vertigo comic ever? Probably Why the Last Man. Probably. But it depends on when in my life you'd ask me, because when I was younger, it definitely would have been Preacher. There's been a time where, it would have been a Constantine run. But I think that, Why the Last Man is always pretty high on my list. I like Brian K. Vaughan a lot. He's pretty cool. I have a lot of incomplete work. Wanted to do a book and still would like 2D animation. Could you send Infotron to the post office? Well, I should. And then tell him not to come back. I mostly recently traced images of Baki characters and turned them into King of the Hill characters. Okay, that's different. To answer your question, I do draw in general, but haven't finished a drawing in months. I got burned out due to work and just stopped. Yes, I totally understand how work can burn us out. That's part of why I at least commit to drawing weekly on my live stream, because otherwise maybe I would stop too, and I don't want to stop. I like drawing. It's just finding the time to fit it in with everything else that life throws at us. Not easy. Hello, Marcus. I love your content. I'm glad I found your stream, and I'm a big Jason fan. Well, I'm glad that you're joining us. Thank you very much, sir. Let's see. I do drawing, but mostly just line art for painting. I like painting sometimes. My wife is a great painter, so sometimes I get to play around with some of the tools that she's gathered over the days and years. Do you have a favorite comic book run of all time? Of all time? That's a tough question, and it would probably change. Like, I don't just lock in a favorite and be like, well, now something has to beat it. It's like sometimes I'm in the mood for something, and so that becomes my favorite. But there are some that are always really high. Almost everything by Naoki Urasawa is really high all the time. By that, I'm like Pluto, 20th Century Boys, and Monster are all really high for me all the time. That's what comes to mind right now. What's your favorite Silver Age DC comic? Silver Age DC, probably Batman. Yeah, I like Batman, so I'd probably go with that. Yeah, whenever I get asked favorite questions, those are really tough for me, folks, because I definitely never, like, I have to admit, I don't really think too much in terms of, like, lists of favorite things, so it's never right on the tip of my tongue. It's never forefront in my mind, and they do change, you know, based on what I'm thinking of. Do you like the version of Jason in the X Mutants? I don't know that version. Did I ever draw Belgian? Do you sort of mean that sort of open line art style that you see in books like Hergé and Mobius and stuff? If so, not really. Any thoughts on Jeff Smith's other big comic wrestle? I liked it. I liked it a lot. I supported Jeff's latest Kickstarter. Yeah, Jeff's work is great. Bone is incredible. Bone is just... I never get tired of it. It's so charming and exciting and wonderful. But yeah. Let me clean this up for just a second with my trusty, dusty, kneaded eraser, just so that I can sort of see what I'm doing and what I need to do. Hey, wait, this isn't dusty. Why'd I say trusty, dusty? This is just trusty. Whoops. Hold on. Knocked the pen over. All right. I bet if we saw a photo of Liefeld's parents, they have 300 teeth, no feet, and cargo pants. Well, I guess we'll never know. Maybe. What are you all reading at the moment? I'm 100% legally purchasing Ultimate Fantastic Four to read. Well, that's okay, Novacaster, if that's your thing. Well, happy birthday, Luciano. What am I reading at the moment that I love? I'm blanking a tiny bit. I'm like looking at what I've been reading. Anything by Brubaker and Phillips. So whenever they got a Reckless book that comes out, Radiant Black these days is pretty high on my list. I'm always excited. Asadora by Naoki Urasawa is really high on my list, and so is anything by Daniel Warren Johnson. He's got a book coming out called Do a Powerbomb that I'm definitely excited about, because I like pro wrestling a bit, more than a bit, and I think that'll be an exciting comic. What do I think of DC's He-Man comics? I've never read those, Black Phoenix. Yeah, He-Man I've never been into, so I don't really know much about He-Man. Any thoughts on Neil Adams, George Perez? Both Titans. Love both of them tremendously. They also seem like just good people beyond good artists. Neil Adams did a tremendous amount of good work for creators' rights. He used his superstar status to, get original artwork back to Jack Kirby. He, essentially guilted DC Comics into taking care of Siegel and Schuster. Did a lot to raise awareness for, the Holocaust. Because that's easy to forget sometimes. And Perez is just fun, he just really dynamic artwork. I don't know. I've made an episode about Perez. Neil Adams, I want to, but I didn't want to rush it out like a ghoul just because he passed away. So I will do something about him, but I didn't quite want to just talk about him the second he passed away. It just didn't feel right to me, but I will talk about his work. There's a lot to say. Are there any good Friday the 13th comics? There's a few, not many. I'm trying to remember who had the license, but Jimmy Palmiotti was writing some that had covers by Ryan Sook. So look up those names and you'll find it was a pretty good run. I think Joshua Fialkov wrote a few stories in it. Sort of an anthology series of short stories. That was pretty good. That's about it. Gonna pick up a trade paperback for Do a Powerbomb if they make them. Well, I'm sure they will, but that's probably 8 to 9 months out. I did pick up Jurassic League. Yep. It's very fun. I can't wait to talk about it on Monday on my show. Let's see. Grew is good. Looking forward to that Neil Adams video. Yeah, no worries. I'll definitely be doing it soon. Did I see that the creator of Swamp Thing also passed away this week? Wasn't that Len Wein? Didn't he pass away a long time ago? Unless you're I don't know who else we would be talking about. Are there any good comics from Continuity Studio Comics? Yes. The one I would say is really good isn't actually by Neil Adams, but you said published by the studio. Bucky O'Hare by Larry Hama and Michael Golden. I'm glad you're not rushing out the Neil Adams video just because he passed away. Well, I'm not against necessarily getting out as soon as I can, but I didn't want to rush my thoughts. I wasn't prepared to do an episode about him, so I've been rereading a bunch of his stuff and reading interviews so that I can give my 2 cents on it in a meaningful way. I just didn't want to just recap the Wikipedia page or something like that, or just read a comic to you. That doesn't really hold much interest to me. My process for making these episodes is I'm always reading a bunch of older stuff and interview type stuff. I always get a lot of magazines and website articles whenever I'm considering talking about a creator. So I've always got several videos in various states of production. Bernie writes in, died in 2017. Let's see. What is your favorite question you've been asked? What's my favorite beef? Let's say, hello, Suited Collectibles. Any chance we could see a video on John Totalben? Yeah, there is a chance. I definitely don't have anything like that in the works right now, but I do every once in a while try to say, well, who out there hasn't been discussed a whole lot, that deserves a little bit more attention. So I would consider him somebody like that definitely deserves more attention. So hopefully at some point I could do something like that. It would interest me. I will say that. It would definitely interest me. The best beef has got to be Wagyu. Well, let's be more specific there. Because Wagyu is technically just Japanese word for beef. So it's easy to say Wagyu, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything. And in fact, when it even says Kobe, that can just be American Kobe or Kobe style. It's hard to find actual Kobe beef. They don't export a whole lot from Japan. But I have been to Japan several times, considering going in August, possibly. And I've been fortunate enough to have authentic Kobe beef from Japan, and it's a treat. It's something very special. It's expensive as hell, so that's how you know you're getting the real thing. But you also know it when you taste it. It tastes much different than regular beef. It's really loaded with flavor. It's surprising how different it can be. But it's cool. But my favorite beef probably has to be the East Coast, West Coast rap feud of the 90s. Ribeye for cheesesteaks. Let's see. Clearly Stan Lee needs an episode. We don't see a lot about him. Yes, Stan Lee is always somebody that we need to know more about. Face front, true believers. If you're patient, you'll get more about Stan the Man. I also, if you ever like look at it, I try to vary things up with what I'm reviewing. Like I'm like, okay, if I've reviewed too much old stuff, it's time for something modern. If I haven't done a foreign comic in a while, it's time to do that. So I bounce around a little bit like with that, like taking a look at what I've actually done and go, oh, time to like change it up a little, throw something else in. How about Stan Lee and Jack Kirby's partnership? Could definitely use a little more analysis, so possibly at some point. But I've talked about it a decent amount, I think, over the years. But it's something I would still cover again. The episode when the homie Eddie P was on the show was awesome. I've never seen Eddie P nervous as he was talking to Chris. I don't think he was that nervous. Did you get that impression? I mean, I was probably taking him a little out of his comfort zone because, you know, when he hosts, he knows exactly what he's going to talk about. But, you know, we've talked a little, and I think he knew I wasn't going to ambush him with any questions. I was sincerely just curious about his artistic process, and he was very open and honest about that. I just joined and wanted to ask if you've ever read the newish run on X-Men. I've read... The most recent that I read for X-Men was I was reading the Jonathan Hickman run, which started incredible with House of X, Powers of 10, and then felt like it slowed down. And then I came to like read some interviews, and that's exactly what happened, because he'd like set up a new premise, and he didn't intend for it to like sort of last as long as it had, but a lot of the other writers on the other mutant books were like, no, we want to explore this longer, so it sort of slowed down his plans, and I don't think it quite reached any sort of epic heights like a lot of his other work. It wasn't that great. I wanted it to be, but it wasn't. But that's about it. I haven't been reading a lot of X-Men stuff for lately. I've heard that Jerry Duggan's been doing some good stuff with X-Men, but I haven't read it yet. What size microns do you use? Mostly like the 1s and 5s, although recently I was talking to an artist, and he was telling me that he uses a lot of 8s, like really thick lines, because a lot of these fine lines won't necessarily reproduce that well, so it's best to condition yourself to drawing with like a thicker line. And I liked what I was being taught there. Like, that sounded really interesting to me. What is your nemesis in drawing? Like landscapes, buildings, cars? Just drawing something new, because like I think like a lot of sort of casual artists, I'll just sort of stick with like the same eye and hand that I know how to draw, and it sort of prevents me from trying a new pose. You know, I'm not being experimental enough. I would say that that's my biggest enemy, is just not being brave enough to try something new. Thanks for the question. It's a shame that it was written by Warren Ellis. Let's see. What about an episode on CrossGen? It doesn't get talked about a lot, but the story seems wild. Yeah, both CrossGen and Malibu are two publishers that I would like to get into. Actually, there's a bunch of publishers I'd like to talk about, like Kamiko and Eclipse. There's a lot. So that's definitely a possibility that I'll cover one of those in the very near future. But I don't have like a specific one that I've like already locked in, just so you know. Thanks for recommending Immortal Hulk. Have you read Wade's Daredevil? I haven't. I've heard good things about it, but I haven't. Hey, Big Gay Dave. Nice to have you here. Draw a boat over waves in the ocean with a sky background and weather. Are these the toy proportions? Those noodle legs are getting to me. Oh, well, sorry that I didn't make you happy, Magpie. No, I wouldn't necessarily say they're toy proportions. That's just me emphasizing anatomy over like how cloth falls, because I make these mistakes as I'm not a professional artist. So I make these mistakes. And I understand and acknowledge your criticism. Don't disagree, but I think it's a mistake I'm going to have to learn to live with for today. Like I say, I'm just drawing for fun today, folks. But, you never know if I'll learn something along the way. Just trying different things. Maybe one of them will work, and I'll have that tool in my arsenal for the next time I draw. Did you watch Multiverse? I almost got that out, didn't I? Multiverse of Madness. I did. I had a lot of fun at it. It was good. I'll call it the... When did Spider-Man come out? That was just before the new year, right? So I'll say that Multiverse of Madness is the second best multiverse movie in 2022. After the incredible movie Everything Everywhere All at Once. That's just a perfect movie. Does Isad Ribic paint interiors to comics or no? I don't know. You will forget this before the stream ends. I hope so. Not much of a memory up here. Glad to have some folks here. This is fun just to draw and chat with y'all. A lot of fun. I appreciate it. The best Friday the 13th movie is the fourth one, the final chapter. That's what I argued earlier today, Paul Marshall. Thank you. What's your favorite Friday the 13th movie? Like Paul just said, it is number 4. Number 4. Here's one for you guys. Since I'm drawing this, it's Friday the 13th. What's your favorite horror movie? Does not have to be Friday the 13th or anything like that. Just what's your favorite horror movie? I'm not sure he did one on Al Ewing yet. I didn't do anything on Al Ewing specifically, but I did talk about his run on Immortal Hulk. So that's the closest I've come to talking about Al specifically. And I think that that's a pretty good episode of what I've done, at least from what I remember. I guess I only really remember the opening gag I made, but I was proud of that one. I just recently started rereading Fall of Dead World, and it sucked me right into the Dread world. Good. Yeah, Dread's awesome. Have you done an episode on painters in comics? Not really. It's something I've considered, but not yet. Okay, here's some favorite horror movies. Clive Barker's Nightbreed, Evil Dead, Cure, Shaun of the Dead, Exorcist, Silence of the Lambs, Hello Kitty Adventures on Spooky Island, Evil Dead. Hello, aren't we on the wrong channel? No, just doing an impromptu live stream on this channel. You're in the right place. You're in the right place. I'm just doing something a little different. But if you haven't, I definitely recommend subscribing to my Pros and Cons channel, where I do a live stream like this, but I also have extra content because I'll be reviewing the comics that I read this week, whatever the week is, as well as talking about the comic book news of the week. So that's always, I think, interesting. And I also do a few other things on that channel. one of the things that I will be doing is like when I travel, I'll be doing like sort of travel vlog stuff. So like, you know, going to any comic conventions, going to any like foreign comic book stores, things like that. That'll all be over there. Have you read any Korean graphic novels? I haven't read any Korean graphic novels, but I have read some manhwa like through webtoons. So that's the most exposure I've had to Korean stuff. I'd like to know more, but I have to admit that's one that I'm not as confident about, like knowing where to start. So I ask people for recommendations and stuff, and we'll see. At some point, maybe I'll know enough that I can start talking about it on the channel. But don't want to go in blind and just sound like a dum-dum. Nobody wants that. Nobody wants a dum-dum. I've never heard you talk about Alex Ross. What's your opinion on him? Alex Ross is very, very talented. I like a lot of his work. I think my favorite work by him is probably on Kingdom Come. I would say like my critique of his stuff is a lot of it can seem the same. But that's, you know, when you draw well, that's okay. He's certainly way more accomplished than I am. I'd love to discuss his work in more detail at some point. Wow, thank you for the super chat. James Hutchins, a member here. Thank you so much for your membership. And he says, oh, hi. You got me being a member for 3 months. Awesome. Awesome. Really, really appreciate that. Means a lot to me. Really helps the channel continue. Because YouTube by itself, the ads are like next to nothing. The only reason I can still do this is because of people being YouTube members or supporting Patreon. That's the only place I really make money. Super Godu Satsu with super chat saying, do you think you'll ever cover manga authors Ken Ishikawa or Go Nagai? Go Nagai is somebody that I've definitely come close to making some episodes about. I've read his Devilman. So between the two, like Go Nagai would probably be the first. Ken Ishikawa, don't necessarily know as much, but we'll read at some point. Just sort of a related sort of question in terms of foreign comics, because Mian says Tintin or Asterix. I've read both. I prefer usually Tintin, but there's a lot to say about both. So those are comics that I will cover at some point as well. Did you hear about Amazing Fantasy 1000? I didn't hear anything about that. I seem to remember you stating that you set up pros and cons so that you could avoid watering down the algorithm for comic tropes. That's 100% true. I'm doing this as definitely sort of like a one-time, like rare thing just for fun. It will definitely not help my channel doing this. It will hurt a little bit, but as long as I don't do it all the time, it shouldn't be too big a deal. I guess I also like had like in the back of my mind like a little bit of a hope that, you know, some of these super chats will sort of offset that revenue loss. So yeah, probably will. What is your favorite bowling shirt? I don't know. I'll be honest. In my real life, I don't actually wear bowling shirts that much. Well, I just decided when I started the channel that like maybe I'd just sort of have a consistent look for a while, just so that people could start to remember who I was, that I'd stand out a tiny bit by being a little consistent visually. You might notice that I haven't really done that now because I don't think it's as necessary. But yeah, that was the only real reason I did that, was I just thought like it was a pop of color. It was a very simple design, but it was a pop of color that I could change, like, you know, okay, blue, green, red, whatever. And I would just sort of like, people would be like, oh, that's that guy. That's a Comic Tropes video. So that was all. That was the only sort of real rationale between any of that. just announced a 60th anniversary anthology for Spider-Man. Neil Gaiman and Armando Iannucci are both in it. No kidding. Oh, wow, 60th. This isn't your real life? Am I imaginary? Yes, you are all in my mind. What is your favorite movie tie-in comic? Boy, you ask that, and it sounds easy, but not a lot comes to mind. I guess as a kid, it was stuff like Transformers and G.I. Joe. These days? I don't know. Can't really think of anything that's tied into recent stuff that makes an impression, to be honest. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm not thinking of something obvious, but I can't think of a really great recent movie tie-in comic or anything like that. Still waiting for Gaiman to finish his Miracle Man run. That would be nice. I hope that happens. I really do. I think that there's a chance. He seems to have a decent relationship with Marvel, so I hope so. I would like that too. And I'd like to see where it goes next, you know? I'd love to see that story continue. Miracle Man, or Marvel Man, however you want to call it, pretty interesting set of comics. Yeah. But then, like, really, what is... I don't know that I've ever read a book by... hold on, I'm blanking for a minute here. I keep thinking of the name of, like, all these British artists, and all of a sudden I'm forgetting Alan Moore's name. There. I don't think I've ever really read an Alan Moore comic that I considered bad. Some I like a lot more than others, but I don't know that I've ever read one that I was like, oh, that was a bad comic. He's quite talented. Timeless #1, I think Miracle Man will be finished. I don't know. I don't know about that. That would be leaving money on the table. Which is generally not something Marvel does. Do you think the Spidey sequels following No Way Home will hew closer to the comics or supremely backtrack? Probably a little bit of a mixture, but I think that there's a chance that they could be actually a little closer to the comics moving forward. I think that there's a really good chance they could be. I think that they definitely made a conscious decision to end them in a place where they're closer to the comics. That seemed very intentional to me. We'll see. Give us a 2-minute soapbox on Stan Sakai. Stan Sakai is somebody that I've been reading a lot of his comics lately. I should really say rereading. So Stan Sakai is probably an episode I'll do in the somewhat near future relative to everything else that's been discussed. Yeah, some of the ones that are likely to be episodes in the next few months would be like Neil Adams, Stan Sakai, Mike Allred. Those are some that would probably be prioritized. We'll see. It changes. Some are not so keen. Moore's mid-90s Image comics such as Glory. You know, I haven't read Glory, so I said like of what I've read. Can understand that some of them are going to be less inspired than others. That's not surprising to hear that isn't so great, but yeah. Yeah, I never read his stuff like Supreme or Glory. Read some of his ABC comic stuff, and that was all quite strong. For a minute there, I was trying to think of a way that I could do a contest right now with everybody here to like win a sketch or something, but I can't think of a fair way to do it that I can like pick. Yeah, sorry. I'll try to think of that for the future though. If that's something people are interested in, like having a piece of the original art that I'm creating, like I'll try to think of a way that I could do that. Tell you what, this piece needs a lot more black so that it's, it's Jason Voorhees. It needs to be darker. So bear with me, I'm just going to start throwing in some blacks. Alan Moore Supreme is really good stuff. Oh, okay. I plan on watching Friday the 13th 4 today. Okay. Well, sounds like quite the decision between 4 and 4. Good luck with your decision. No, part 4 is really good, so enjoy. I remember once I had a roommate that also liked horror movies a lot, and one day, one of those channels like, say TBS or something like that, I can't remember exactly who, was doing a Friday the 13th marathon, and we had nothing to do, so we just like sat and watched it all. And we made like little Go Jason banners as though we were going to a sports game or something. A sports game. It was fun. Go Jason, and the O was a hockey mask. That was fun. Twas good. Needs more blood. Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. I'm probably not going to finish all this. This is really just for fun. And how long have I been going now? Let's see. Let me just see how long I've been going. Does this tell me? I've been going for about an hour. Okay. All right. That's decent. I'll keep going. I'll keep going for a little while, though. Sounds like TBS Super Channel. Might be. Joe Bob Briggs' Monster Vision Friday the 13th Marathon is legendary. I've never seen that, but that does sound fun. It does sound fun. It's been a little while since a good horror movie's come out in the last couple months, so yeah, I can't think of a really good one lately. What's the last good one? Oof, it's been a while. Hey, Dr. Shoebill, member, thank you so much. Sorry I'm late. Looks great, though. Well, happy to have you here. Happy to have your support. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. It really does. Only reason I can do this channel is from the support of people like yourself. Because I'll be honest, like, the YouTube ad rates are kind of crummy throughout 2022. I don't think it's just me either, because I've talked to other people I know that do YouTube, and yeah, like December was good, but then it's just like, it's bottomed out. That's why I've done a couple sponsored ads, but you have no idea how many I say no to. Like, I get about 3 offers a day, and I say no to obviously almost all of them. Because I don't want, like, to hawk anything that's really overtly, like, terrible. I just wouldn't. The stuff I hawk, I either think is, like, decent, or, I'm like, well, it's completely voluntary. It's not like it's going to harm you. So I do a lot of, like, vetting of the ads that are pitched to me, and I say no to most, but I probably will do a few in the future, like, just because I got to make some money from this somehow. Otherwise, it just doesn't make sense. Andrew, thank you. Who would win, Jason or Gru? You know what? That would have to be Gru. Gru does not lose a fight. Jason does lose, like, usually at the end of every movie, but Gru never loses, so I'm going to give that to Gru. That said, Jason would find a way to come back later. Thank you very much for the super chat. That's sincerely appreciated. Expect it to get worse. Tech is cutting back. Yeah. What's a genre that you would like to see more in comics? Crime and horror. Yeah. You don't want to hawk Mudwater or Sasquatch soap? I don't even know Mudwater at all. I think I know Sasquatch soap. I don't know. I'd have to look into, like, whether that's something I'd say yes to or not. But, you know, some things just don't feel right. Like, you know, just advertising certain brand of pants or hair loss formula. These aren't necessarily bad products. They just don't seem appropriate to the channel. And so, yeah, like, we'll see. I'd rather not do any ads. And I've said no for years, but I don't want to stop doing this show. I really like doing it, but I can only justify it if, you know, because of how many hours it takes me now and all, if I can sort of bring in at least some money from it. So I just want to, like, yeah, I got to balance that is all. I got to balance that. I hope I don't have to, like, stop doing this because I really love doing it. It's just so fun. Sharing, talking about comics. I wish we could see a good modern Western comic series. Yeah, you know what? That's a great idea. There's a genre that, like, you know, if somebody had a good Western idea, that might, like, do well, just because people do like fresh ideas, and I don't think we've seen any great Westerns lately. The last one I can think of was just the one-shot by Brubaker and Phillips, Pulp. That was pretty good. That was a bit of a Western, but also kind of a crime story, so. But, you know, blending genres is good. I agree those aren't appropriate. I have no hair, and I'm not wearing pants right now. I know my audience. No hair, no pants. But, you know, would I advertise for something like, you know, like a meal prep service? Yeah, probably. I don't know. I'd advertise, like, you know, a comic or something if the price was right. Most of those can't afford, like, the rate where it makes sense to me. It's not fun having to say no to people, though. And that's something I get a little burned out on this. Just giving you a peek behind the scenes. Like, I have to say no to so many people. Like, you know, either asking to advertise something, asking to, like, you know, get interviewed for their Kickstarter. And I'm like, I can't, you know, like, there's so many things, like, it would just tank the channel if I just did nothing but, like, interviews with, you know, an emerging artist that wants to do a Kickstarter. And they might be, like, the superstar of tomorrow, and I don't want to say no to people, but I just can't do nothing but that. Like, and I get asked it all the time. It definitely gets boring. It gets old. I hate saying no to people because I'm a people pleaser at the end of the day. I want people to be happy. I'd love to see cool mecha robot anime inspired comic that's not just cheap licensed one. Well, good luck. That sounds cool. I think the thing I love about comics the most, at least right now, today, in this moment, is just how versatile it is. That it can tell so many different types of stories. You know, you can just do so much with comics. It's amazing. It really is beautiful. Anybody get any cool back issues lately? That's always interesting to hear about. To me, anyway. Let's see. Nice humble brag, Chris. I have to turn down so many advertisers. Is that a humble brag? I feel like it makes me feel bad that I have to do it. I feel like it would sort of tank my channel if I just accepted all of these. Like, you know, like people would get burnt out if I was advertising crap that, like, you know, they couldn't trust. So that's more what I was talking about. Is I don't like having to say no, and the stuff I say no to just doesn't make sense to me for this channel. But yeah, maybe that came off as a brag. I wasn't intending it to be a brag. I was more just sort of complaining a little to people that might understand a little bit. But yeah, that's a fair point. Like, was not trying to be braggy. Whoa, Hankry says, your videos have been a great introduction to comics, and I've found so many great artists through you. Keep up the great work. I really appreciate it. Well, I appreciate you. Thank you. That means a lot. There's so many good things in comics. You know, I don't want my channel to be nothing but like, this is great, this is great, this is great. Like, that becomes noise. So even like when I'm talking about somebody that I respect, like the latest episode about Steve Englehart, I'll talk about some of the things like where it's a drawback as well, because there has to be context and a balance. But I'm still going to primarily cover things that I would recommend as compared to like, this is a bad comic and I'm just going to shit on it for 30 minutes. Because I feel like that would burn me out, and I think it would burn people out. Won't see MeUndies ads on your channel. I don't know. I mean, it depends on what they offer, Victor. Like, if MeUndies, like, you know, offered me, like, you know, 3 times my ad rate, I'd go like, well, maybe. It's not necessarily something like evil that I'm putting out into the world. Like, oh, here, get a different pair of underwear than what you have now. So, it's possible. Stray Dog says, I was in Beyond Comics today looking for a copy of Talos of the Wilderness Sea. Ever read it or hear of it? No, that's totally new to me. I don't know that one at all. You'd have to tell me what that is. I don't know. You know, there are a lot of good Westerns that come from other countries. There's a lot of like Italian and French artists that have made some really great Western comics. You know, Blueberry, for instance, long-running Western. It's stuff that's like set in America, but is made by people from abroad, and it's interesting. There's a purity to it. Yeah, Westerns are cool. Oh, you know what? Like, here's something I saw the other day that, like, it totally, like, hit my nerd buttons. I can't wait to get it. Lego announced an official transforming Optimus Prime that they're making that'll come out in June. I'm of the age that, like, Transformers is already, like, something I just like. You know, it just came out at the right time. I like Transformers. I haven't kept up with Transformers. I don't really read the comics or buy the toys. But, like, in general, I like the idea of Transformers. I like some of those characters because of nostalgia and stuff. And I like building Lego if I ever have free time. So, like, the idea of building an Optimus Prime that actually transforms, oh, that totally hits my nerd buttons. I can't wait. R.I.P. Creo. Creo could have been cool. I like the minifigs and stuff, and I wish I'd gotten some of the G.I. Joe sets. I wish I got the Terrordrome. But there were too many like prefabricated parts, and like the quality wasn't quite what you get with Lego in terms of like, you know, the ability for it to snap together and stick together. Anyway, Lego Transformers, yeah, throws money at the screen. Gotta go, Chris. Keep up the good work on the channel. Thanks for being here, Heath. Probably won't be up here too much longer. I just watched your video about letters. Yes, I think you missed a chapter. EC fandom and letters pages is quite cool. Oh, letter columns you're talking about. Got it. I know you're more into Marvel and DC. I wouldn't say that I am, to be honest. I've never heard that critique, that I'm more into Marvel and DC, because I kind of read everything. Yeah, that's interesting. Sorry I overlooked something you considered important. Just not something that occurred to me, is all. It doesn't really reflect an intentional bias on my part. I just like comics in general. Guy who designs Macross likes Lego. Oh, cool. Did I read Scioli's Transformers vs. G.I. Joe? I did. That thing is bonkers. That book is out there, man. I liked it. Anyway, I think we get where this is going. I'm going to, I guess I'll call it. Unless there's anything else anybody really wants to talk about or hear from my dumb voice. I just wanted to do an impromptu live stream because I haven't connected with so many of you in a while. I want you to know I appreciate each and every one of you. When you guys hit things like, and when you hit when you put a comment on my video, that does help, because that means that YouTube makes a decision to recommend it to some other people, and that's what helps the channel grow. So I really appreciate all of you for doing things like that. That means a lot to me. Let's see here. Just checking to see if I've got this centered. Yeah, maybe more like down there. Is that? That's probably about yeah, that shows most of the artwork. So that's what I'm going to do today. I think I'm done. I'm going to take off. But if you enjoyed this at all and you haven't, I hope you'll consider looking at my second channel. Again, that's called Pros and Cons. And every Monday, I do a 2-hour live stream where I do comic book reviews, talk about the news of the week, comic book news of the week specifically, and draw something. It's a really fun time. I think we have a good time. It's a great way to connect, understand what kind of things people want to hear discussed comic book wise, what's important to people. So yeah, thank you all for coming in. You have a great voice that makes me invested on the topics you talk about. Thank you, true believer. Oh, no. Thank you, true believer. Sort of a voice of Stanley. Could Jason beat Frankenstein's monster? Yeah, he could. Just, I checked. I went back in time and I made them fight. And yeah, turns out he could. But you guys are great. Thank you so much. I do have another channel. It's called Pros and Cons. So just want to plug that a few more times here. You know what? I just realized I never really finished this eye. I was going to throw in a bunch of shadow here and I never finished. Wow! Ryan from somewhere in Europe with a super chat. Hey Chris, first time catching a stream. My question is, how does one go on to write wcomic, write it as it's drawn, or write the story separately? How do you write a comic? Well, honestly, there's no set way. Ryan, thank you for the super chat. I would say that it all depends on the creative process that you have, if you're doing it by yourself or if you have a collaborator. But I do think in general it's best to write out your story first. Now you may not have to write a description for every panel if you want your artist to have some input and some buy-in and stuff. But that's going to vary from artist to artist, how much sort of assistance they need with either a description or how much they want to do in making those decisions. So that it's going to vary for each creative team in each book. But I will say, yeah, generally you would want to write everything first, not a page at a time or anything. Marvel method. Yeah, founded and subbed. Thank you. Yeah, hopefully I put some people onto that. That would be nice. You guys are fantastic. You mean a lot to me. Not just saying that, you really do. And I will have more content here. If you're already a Patreon member or a YouTube channel member, I've posted the latest episode, and that'll be up for everybody else in the near future. In the meantime, I'm working on another episode of Comic Tropes, so we've got all sorts of cool stuff coming. I've got lots of good ideas. Appreciate your input. I want to tell the victim to roll. Yeah, he's so close to being able to get away, but no, he's going to get his jaw stomped off. We did it. I consider this a complete success. Now I'm going to end the live stream. Thanks, everybody. Keep reading comics. Thanks for the subs, everybody. Appreciate it. Awesome. Really positive. Love it.